All right, everybody, welcome to Mountain Time Reading. This is from the More Mountainic Empire, as we jokingly call it. And we're going to take a break from politics every night until Christmas because I feel like it. And I haven't heard this story yet this year, and I usually read this every year to a coworker, but I have too many coworkers to keep up with this year, so here, I'm just doing this for kicks and giggles. It's called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. It's truly funny. You go watch it, read it, that too. And it's written by Barbara Robinson, and it was drawn by Judith Gwen Brown. And they said it's written for Jack, of course. Okay? So, the Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. They lied, they stole, they smoked cigars, even the girls. And they talked dirty, they hit little kids, and they cussed their teachers. They took the name of the Lord in vain. And then they set fire to Fred Shoemaker's old broken down tool house. The tool house burned right down to the ground. And I think that surprised the Herdmans. They set fire to things all the time, but that was the first time they managed to burn the whole building down. I guess it was an accident. I don't suppose they woke up that morning and said to one another, "Hey, let's go burn down Fred Shoemaker's old tool house," but maybe they did. After all, it was a Saturday and not much going on. It was a terrific fire. 2 engines and 2 police cars, all the volunteer firemen, and 5 dozen donuts sent up from the Tasty Lunch Diner. The donuts were supposed to be for the firemen, but by the time they got the fire out, the donuts were all gone. The Herdmans got to them, of course. What they couldn't eat, they stuffed all in their pockets and down the front of their shirts. And you could actually see the donuts all around Ollie Herdman's middle. I couldn't understand why the Herdmans were hanging around the scene of the crime. Everybody knew the whole thing was their fault, and you'd think they'd have the brains to get out of sight. One fireman even collared Claude Herdman and said, "You kids start this fire smoking them cigars up in that tool house." But Claude just said, "We weren't smoking cigars, come on now." And they weren't. They were playing with Leroy Herdman's young Einstein chemistry set, which he stole from the hardware store, and that is how they started the fire. So Leroy says, "We mixed all these little powders together, and then we poured lighter fluid around them, and then we set lighter fluid to it, set fire to the lighter fluid. We wanted to see if the chemistry set was any good." A lot of good that did. The chemistry set's destroyed now. Anyway, any other kid, even a mean kid, would have been a little bit worried if he stole $4.95 worth of something and then burnt down a building with it. Oh, but Leroy, he was just mad because the chemistry set got burnt up along with everything else before he had a chance to make 1 or 2 bombs. Very creative soul. The fire chief got us all together. There were 15 or 20 kids standing around watching the fire, and then he gave us kids a little talk about playing with matches and gasoline and dangerous things like that. Now, I don't say that this is what happened here, he told us. I don't know what happened here, but that could have been it. And you see the results, kids. So let this be a good lesson to you boys and girls. Well, of course, it was a great lesson to the Herdmans. They learned that wherever there's a fire, there will be free donuts sooner or later. I guess things would have been different if they burned down, say, the Second Presbyterian Church up there on the hill instead of the tool house. But the tool house was about to fall down anyway. All the neighbors had pestered Mr. Shoemaker to do something about it because it looked so awful and was sure to bring rats. So everybody said the fire was a blessing in disguise. Even Mr. Shoemaker said it was a relief. My daddy, he said that it was the only good thing the Herdmans ever did. And if they had known it was a good thing, they probably wouldn't even done it at all. They would have set fire to something else or somebody. They were just all around awful. You could hardly believe they were real. Let's see here. There was Ralph, Imogene, Ollie, Claude, and the worst of all, the youngest, was Gladys. And then Leroy. 6 skinny, stringy-haired kids, all alike, except for being different sizes and having different black and blue places where they had clonked each other. They lived over a garage at the bottom of Sproul Hill. Nobody used the garage anymore, but the Herdmans used to bang the door up and down just as fast as they could to try to squash one another. That was their idea of a game. Where other people had grass in their front yard, the Herdmans had rocks. Where other people had hydrangea bushes, they had poison ivy. There was also a sign in the yard that said, "Beware of the cat." New kids always laughed about that until they got a look at that cat. It was the meanest looking animal I'd ever seen. It had one short leg and a broken tail and one missing eye, and the mailman wouldn't deliver anything to the herdsman because of it. "I don't think that's a regular cat at all," the mailman told my father. "I think those kids went up into these hills and they got themselves a bobcat." "Oh, I don't think you can tame a bobcat," my dad had said. "I'm sure you can't," said the mailman. "They'd never tried to tame it. They just tried to make it wilder than what it was." That's what the mailman said. That was their plan. It worked. The cat would attack anything it would see out of its one eye. One day, Claude Herdman emptied the whole first grade class in 3 minutes flat when he took it to show and tell. He didn't feed it for 2 days. 2 days. And then it was already mad. Then he carried it into school in a box, and he opened the box up, and the cat shot straight out. Right straight in the air, people said. It came down on top of the blackboard ledge, clawed 4 big long scratches all the way down the chalkboard, and then it just tore all around the place, scratching little kids and shedding fur and scattering books and papers everywhere. The teacher, Miss Brandel, she yelled for everybody to run out in the hall, and then she put a coat over her head and grabbed a broom and tried to corner the cat. But of course she couldn't see with a coat over her head, so she just ran up and down the aisle saying, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." And then she smacked the broom down whenever the cat hissed back. She knocked over the Happy Family dollhouse, a globe of the world, broke an aquarium full of 20 gallons of water, and about 65 goldfish. That's a bunch of fish. All the time she kept yelling for Claude to come in and catch his cat. But Claude had gone out in the hall with the rest of the class. Later, when Miss Brindle was slapping Band-Aids out on everybody who could show her any blood, she asked Claude, "Why in the world didn't you come and get your cat under control?" "You told us to go out into the hallway," Claude had said, just as if he were any ordinary kind of first grader who did whatever teachers said to do. The cat settled down a little bit once it got something to eat. Most of the goldfish had in Ramona Billion's 2 pet mice that she had brought to show and tell. Ramona cried and carried on some. "I can't even bury them," she said. And then they sent her home. The room was a wreck. Broken glass and papers and books and puddles of water and dead goldfish everywhere. Miss Brandel was sort of a wreck too, and most of the first graders, they were hysterical, so somebody took them outside and just let them have recess for the rest of the day. Claude took the cat home, and after that there was a rule: you cannot bring anything alive to show and tell anymore. The Herdmans moved from grade to grade through Woodrow Wilson School like them South American fish that strip your bones clean in 3 minutes flat, which was just about what they did to one teacher after another. But they never got back in a grade, or got kept back in a grade. When it came time for Claude Herdman to pass to the 2nd grade, he didn't know his ABCs, or his numbers, or his colors, or his shapes, or his 3 bears, or how to get along with anybody. But Miss Brandel passed him anyway. For one thing, she knew that she'd have Ollie Herdman with her next year. That was the one thing about the Herdmans. There was always another one coming along, so no teacher was crazy enough to let her in for 2 or more of them at once. I was always in the same grade with Imogene Herdman, and what I did was stay out of her way. It wasn't easy to stay out of her way. You couldn't do it if you were pretty, or very ugly, or very smart, or very dumb, or had anything unusual about you like red hair or double-jointed thumbs. But if you were just sort of medium like me, and then you kept your mouth shut, when the teacher said, "Who can name all 50 states?" well, then you had a pretty good chance of steering clear of Imogene. As far as anyone could tell, Imogene was just like the rest of the Herdmans. She never learned anything either, except dirty words and secrets about everybody. Twice a year, we had to go into the health room, and then we got weighed and measured. Thank God we didn't do that at my school. And Imogene also always managed to find out exactly what everybody weighed. Sometimes she would even hang around out there in the nurse's room with Miss Hempfield to give her a Band-Aid. Sometimes she would just sneak behind the curtain where they kept the folding cot, and she would just stay there the whole time with one eye on the scales. "Why are you still here, Imogene?" Miss Hempfield asked one day. "You can go back to your classroom." I think you better look and see if I've got what Ollie's got." "What does Ollie have?" the nurse asked. Said Imogene. "We don't know. Just red spots all over." Miss Hentfield looked at her. "What did the doctor say?" "You don't have a doctor." Imogene began scrunching her back up and down against the metal cabinet. "Well, does Ollie have a fever? Is he in bed?" No, he's in the first grade." "Right now?" says Miss Hentfield. "Why, he shouldn't be in school with red spots. It could be measles or chicken pox or any number of things, contagious things. What are you doing?" "I'm scratching my back," says Imogene. "Oh, boy, do I itch." "Now, the rest of you boys and girls go back to your classroom," Miss Hentfield says to Em. "And Imogene, you stay right there." So we all went back to her room, and Miss Hentfield went to first grade to look at Ollie. And Imogene stayed in the health room. That's when she copied down everybody's weight from Miss Hentfield's records. Your weight was supposed to be a big secret, like what you got on your report card. It's nobody's business what you get on your report card. That's what all the teachers said. It's nobody's business at what you weigh either. That's what Miss Hentfield said. Not even the fat kids could even find out what they weighed, but Imogene always knew. "Don't let Alfred Pelfrey on the swing," she would get. On the swing? I've just made up a word. "On the swing," she would yell at recess. "He'll bust it. Alfred Pelfrey weighs 143 pounds. Last time he weighed 137. So right away, everybody knew two things about Albert. We knew exactly how fat he was, for one, and we also knew that he was getting fatter all the time. "You have to go to fat camp this summer." That's what Imogene hollered at him. "Miss Hemphill wrote it down on your paper." Fat camp is a place where they feed you lettuce, grapefruit, cottage cheese, and eggs for a month. You either give up and cheat, or you give up and get skinny. Did I skip a page? Sure did. "I am not," Albert said. "I'm going to Disney World with my Uncle Frank." "That's what you think," said Imogene. Albert had to believe her. She was always right about things like that. So all year, he had fat camp to look forward to instead of Disneyland. Sometimes Imogene would blackmail the fat kids if they had anything that she wanted, like Wanda Pierce's charm bracelet. Wanda Pierce weighed about a ton. She even had fat eyes. And her hobby was this charm bracelet. It had 22 charms, and every single one of them did something different. Like the little wheels turned, or the little bitty piano keys went plink plink, or the little tiny drawers opened and closed. Besides being a fat kid, Wanda was also a rich kid. So every time you turned around, she had another little charm on her bracelet. "Look at my new charm," she would say. "It costs $6.95 without the tax. It's a bird, and when you push this little knob here, the wings just flutter. It costs $6.95. They were great charms, but everybody got sick of hearing about them, so it was almost a relief whenever Imogene blackmailed her out of it. "I know how much you weigh, Wanda," Imogene told her. "I wrote it down on a piece of paper. See?" It must have been an awful amount, because even Wanda looked horrified. So Imogene got her charm bracelet, and she got Lucille Golden's imitation alligator pocketbook with "Souvenir Florida" written on it. And for a while, she got 10 cents a week from Floyd Brush, till Floyd caught double pneumonia, and then he lost 15 pounds and didn't give a care anymore. My friend Alice Wendlekin, she was so nasty clean that she had detergent hands by the time she was four years old. Just the same, Alice picked up a case of head lice when she was at summer camp, and somehow Imogene found out about that too. She would sneak up on Alice and at recess and yell, "Cooties!" And then she would smack Alice's head. She nearly knocked Alice cross-eyed one day before one of the teachers saw her and took them both to the principal's office. Now, what's this all about? The principal wanted to know, but Alice wouldn't say. "I had to hit her," Imogene told him. "She's got cooties, and I saw one crawling in her hair, and I didn't want them on me." "You did not see one," Alice said. "I don't have them anymore." "What do you mean you don't have them anymore?" the principal said. "Did you have them lately?" It really shook him up. He didn't want a whole school full of kids with cooties. So he sent Alice to the health room, and the nurse went all through her head with a fine-tooth comb and then a magnifying glass. And finally, she was all right. So, but it was too late, because everybody called Alice cooties for the whole rest of the year. If Emma Jean didn't know a secret about a person, she made one up. She would catch you in a girl's room or out in the hall and whisper, "I know what you did." And then you'd go crazy trying to figure out what it was that you did that Emma Jean said that she knew what you done. It was no good trying to get the secrets on the Herdmans. Everybody already knew about them and awful things that they had done. You couldn't even tease them about their parents or holler, "Hey, your daddy's in jail," because they didn't care. Actually, they didn't even know who their father was or where he was or anything about him. Because when Gladys was 2 years old, he climbed on a railroad train and disappeared. Nobody blamed him. Now and then you see Miss Herdman walking the cat on a length of chain around the block. But she worked double shifts at the shoe factory and wasn't home much. My mother's friend, Miss Phillips, she was a social worker, and she tried to get some welfare money for the Herdmans, so Miss Herdman could just work one shift and spend more time with the children. But Miss Herdman wouldn't do it. She liked the work, she said. "Oh, it's not the work," Miss Phillips said. And she told my mother, "It's not the money. It's just that she'd rather be at the shoe factory than shut up at the house with that crowd of kids." She sighed. Can't say I blame her. So the Herdmans pretty much looked after each other. Ralph looked after Emma Jean. Emma Jean looked after Leroy. Leroy looked after Claude, and so on down the line. The Herdmans were like most big families. The big ones taught the little ones everything they knew, and the proof of that was the meanest Herdman of all, Gladys, the youngest. We figured they were headed straight for hell by way of the state penitentiary, until they got themselves mixed up with church, my mother, and our Christmas pageant. And there are the Herdmans. All right, we stop there today.